video, I just want to give a few demos and explain a little bit of a background around muscle checking. So essentially, muscle checking uses the wisdom of the body. It's a method that's used in kinesiology, and essentially the body is very strong when one's in truth and a lot weaker when one's not in truth. So when one's asking a question, if the response to the question is yes or true, the body will be a lot stronger than if it's not. If it's not in true, it won't be as strong. It'll be quite weak. It's quite profound, but there's a deep essence really within the body that really seems to know a lot more than our mind often does at a feeling, emotional level anyway. I also really recommend initially anyway using muscle checking mostly for yourself. One can check on behalf of other people and things, but it's not as reliable, and it's probably best you're more practiced at it at that point. Also, to really just ask very mindful questions. If you ask a very open-ended question, it'll often give you a very open-ended response. As well as to just ask questions about the present. They're just also generally more reliable. If one asks questions about the future, I just find there's so many, contributing factors that it might well be wrong. So initially, especially, just keep the questions, again, personal and in the present. And within the context of Growthfully, that's essentially all we're going to be using it for, is about ourselves and what we're feeling or whatever right now, or should we do something. So asking a question like, am I feeling whatever that is? An example being, am I feeling guilt right now? Is that what this emotion is? So you would ask, am I feeling guilt? And then you'd get a yes or no response. Should I do whatever it is? So again, you'd get a yes or no. So an example could be, should I remove this belief system of guilt? And you'd get a yes or no. You could also ask a question along the lines of, will me doing whatever it is be healthy for me? So would me going for a run now be healthy for me? Also, one can confirm the question by asking the opposite of that. So in the previous example, one could say, will me going for a run not be healthy for me? Or should I rather not go for a run? Just ask the opposites of it. But really just play around with questions, structure any questions in any way you want. Obviously also just use discernment with these responses to also just try and be really calm and centered and present when you're asking the questions. I find that makes a big difference. If your head is spinning out on something, or you're not centered, or you're distracted by something, the responses are often way less reliable and make less sense. There's a hand movement that I show that's essentially this, that I really find helps me center myself. I often shake myself loose to kind of just relax more as well. To try and let go of answers, that's a huge one. To try and let go of answers that you want from a question. If you've got an answer that you want from a question, that wanting can influence the result. So to try and stay as open and neutral to any response, and just be open to what comes through in terms of how the body responds. Yeah, and just play around with muscle checking. Practice it, get a feeling of what works for you, which methods work for you. To also ask a few warm-up questions and confirmation questions that you know the response of. As an example, like, my name is Tristan, obviously in my case that would be a yes or a true, and the opposite of that would be, my name is John, or any other name I might use, I'd get a no for that, or a false, or I should. Also, give me a yes is a good starting question, so I always do that. I always say, give me a yes, give me a no, just to warm up and practice. If you get conflicting responses to your warm-up questions and confirmation questions, then maybe just loosen yourself up some more, calm your mind some more, and maybe try again later. The same as if you are asking a question, some other question, some personal question, and you're getting a response that doesn't make sense. Again, try and loosen yourself up some more, calm your mind a little more, or maybe try later. And if it's a bigger thing, try it over muscle check it a few times over a day or a few days even, depends. Again, really whatever feels right to you. It will take you to scary places often because it'll encourage you to do things that you're maybe scared of, but you really should do. Again, like this whole video topic thing for me, this growthfully content video is incredibly scary, and I always get very strong yeses from muscle checking, yet I'm scared of it. So it will take you to these, scary places, but they are safe spaces. That's a question you can ask, is this space safe? Should I do this? Whatever it is. Am I fearing this? Those kind of yes-no questions. You can really ask anything. So for the standing up version of muscle checking, the idea with all of them is to just be as relaxed as possible. So with the standing up one, I just kind of shake myself out. I found myself doing this. It seems to bring a lot of calmness as well. It turns out it's part of Qigong. I put my hand kind of on my heart, and I often just close my eyes through this whole process, even the centering part of it and the shaking loose. Closing one's eyes just helps one be less distracted by the outside world. And then essentially you just stand as loose as you kind of can. Just let yourself balance here. And then to start with, ask some known questions, like give me a yes and you'll notice my body moves forward. Give me a no and you'll notice my body goes backwards. My name is Tristan, I go forward. My name is John, and I go backwards. So immediately I know forwards is true, which is the norm, and backwards is false, which is the norm or no. Sometimes, especially when one's not that grounded and not that centered, backwards can be yes and forwards can be no. So it's always good to check by asking a few known questions like your name and give me a yes, give me a no. And so from there you can just ask any question, and it'll kind of give you that yes or no or true or false response. So just feel free to kind of play around with that method. When you're beginning, you might find that your body kind of stays stationary for a while when you ask the question, and you get a very small sort of yes or a small no kind of thing, or a bit of unsureness. Again, I think it's got a lot to do with practice. I've used this a lot for quite a few years now. I've also found that if the answer to the question is incredibly strong, it becomes quite a big pull, either forwards or backwards. And if it's kind of on the fence, then you might not get such a strong, response. But again, just play around with it. In terms of the finger method, essentially you take your dominant hand, in my case I'm right-handed, so my right hand's my dominant hand, and you use your index finger, and with your non-dominant hand, your weaker hand, in my case my left hand, you take your pinky finger and you connect it to your thumb. Kind of hold it somewhat like that, and then the idea is that with your dominant, strong, in my case, right hand, you try and break that loop with the index finger. And again, like I said earlier, if the body's in truth, it'll be strong, and if it's not, it'll be weaker. So you try and break this finger out. And again, you can say, give me a yes, give me a no. Give me a yes, give me a no. My name is Tristan, my name is John. It's a constant kind of force that I'm applying. Give me a yes, give me a no. And it really makes a big difference. And I find that one, maybe more appropriate when one's not able to stand up, or in certain public places. You can do that more easily, or although standing in a queue, sometimes you can use the standing up version a lot easier. It really depends on where you are. The third method that I know of, and there are others, but this one's, I've always battled with it. I think it's easier if you have someone else to do it with you, but essentially it's a case of holding your arm out straight. And it's the same principle of when your body's strong, there's a lot of resistance to your arm, and when your body's weak, there's not that much resistance. So again, for me, I've found it's easier if someone else tries to push my arm down. But just again, play around with it and see which method works for you, which of these three. But essentially, it's the same thing. Give me a yes and your arm is stronger, and give me a no and your arm is weaker. My name's Tristan, my name is John. Yeah, so out of those three, just play around, see which one really works best for you. And again, try and be calm with all of them. Close your eyes if you want to, whatever helps. Yeah, and really just get to know them and see which method works for you. I think that's really the key.